In podcast here with Freddyinferno. And today I want to talk about the things that I want to see in Madden 22. Not Madden 21, that's coming out in a few weeks now, but Madden 22. With the recent uproar with the whole Fix Madden franchise hashtag on social media, I am a huge franchise player. And I know that I want franchise mode to be more in depth. I want to have more detail in it. I just want to have a more thorough experience with Madden franchise. So I have 5 things that I believe can help Madden franchise out, and 5 things that I think we need going into Madden 22 on next gen, PS5, Xbox Series X, PC, whatever it is. But yeah, so here are the 5 things that I want from Madden franchise moving forward. So what is up, everybody? So on my top 5 list of things I want in Madden 22 franchise mode, as a big franchise player, the most asked for thing I believe is the coaching carousel and assistant coaches. So essentially what this is in Madden, you only have one coach, which is the head coach. And it's been like that for years. When way back in NCAA 14, which came out in 2013, by the way, they had assistant coaches, well, the offensive coordinator and the offensive coordinator, defensive coordinator, and the head coach. And all three of them had skill trees that you could fill out and maximize throughout your dynasty. So not only does the head coach have abilities that can affect the players, but so does the OC and the DC. So why is that not in Madden 20 or Madden 21? But let's hope it's in Madden 22. Because, I mean, this is something they did 7 years ago now, 8 years ago now. So why take this away? They've already done it in a pretty good manner. So why not bring it back? Why not be able to hire an offensive line coach that adds +2 run blocking? Or if you're a passing scheme kind of team, you go +2 pass block or +2 like pass finesse if they're like a like zone run scheme. So that's just something that I think that Madden and EA should bring into the game. So on top of that, building on that, so going, say you hire a like strength coach, brand new guy. So say he brings energy to the team, so like +2 stamina, but his workouts aren't as good, so it's like -1 strength. So have strengths and like weaknesses, and have you be able to choose your coaches and develop your coaches over time. That way, there's more to do in the game. Yes, it's a little kind of like a nitpick thing, and some people might not like it all that much, but it's something that the hardcore franchise like community needs in the game. For people that play franchise year round, I think that's just something that's going to be so much fun, and add in extra little details and be like, and you can find rough coaches like in the gym. So not only have rough players in the gym, but also rough coaches. I mean, it just adds on more content. It adds on more things to do. It makes the game more fun. So if this is something that had back in NCAA 14, I mean, this should be doable, especially going into next generation on the PS5. Like, there should be no problem having this in the game. All right, on to number 2. The thing that I want to see is mini camps in the off season. So what EA could do, what Madden could do, kind of take the 2K format, how 2K has the training camps in the off season schedule. So you have those training camps, and you can select, say, a like certain like position group. It's like, I want to train the tight ends, or I want to train the running backs, or all the DBs, something like that, or skill players, linemen. So you could do quarterbacks as their own group, skill players as their own group, such as running backs and receivers. You could do O-line as their own group, and then you can kind of mix tight ends in, say blocking tight ends, go with the O-linemen. So say like possession and like receiving tight ends, go with the running backs and the receivers. And then you go D-line, linebackers, DB, or like specialists. You can go kicker, punter, special teams guys, return guys, that kind of stuff. So with that, I believe, depending on your coach, going back to the first point, depending on your coach, you should be able to have a certain amount of mini camps to use in the off season. So you have an offensive minded coach that's been to a couple of AFC championship games, or who's won a Super Bowl. Say you pick up the Chiefs and Andy Reid. So why wouldn't you be able to go and have extra off-season mini camps to help your team out? I mean, that just makes sense to me. I mean, like, if you're the best coach in the league and you're Andy Reid, I mean, why wouldn't you be able to have and host these mini camps that really excel these players and get these players up to speed really quickly? You're one of the best like offensive minds in the game. And on the flip side, say you're like Bill Belichick. Say that you're one of the best defensive coaches of all time. So why aren't you able to develop your D linemen, your linebackers, and your secondary at a faster pace than an offensive minded coach? I mean, that's how schemes work. That's how coaching works. Like the better the coaches, the better the players are. They can learn more from them. Their schemes are better. Their schemes are more diverse. They have a lot more to offer in their schemes and in their and pretty much their whole package and what they run. So why does that not correlate to mini camps in the offseason? And so with that, say you're a defensive minded coach, you can get say two workouts. So two workouts for of the three like position groups. Let's cap it at two since there's three on each side, you know. So say you have a really good secondary, but your D line just doesn't get that pass rush that you need. So you work out your D linemen, you work out your linebackers for your two workouts, depending on how good your coach is. That will determine what kind of skill points they get. That will determine what they can upgrade and how much they get. So you can have a lot of workouts, but the substance in it doesn't have to be like, oh, like they get +1 in every single stat. No, like they can focus on say pass rush moves in one off season, and the next off season they want to focus on in like particular like a bull rush or like a swim move. Like there are those things in the game. There's like finesse pass rush. There's the power bull rush. There's run stopping. There's all these different kinds of abilities and things in the game, which I think can only be improved by having this ability in the game. Hey everybody, this is Alfredo Aguilar here endorsing the Anchor app. This has been such a great app for me to use as I've been able to use it to make podcasts very easily. Anchor gives you everything you need in one place, and the best thing about it is that you can use it from your phone or your computer. You can create, record, and edit all your podcasts through the app on your phone. Not only that, but then you can distribute the podcast to Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, and even more. And you can easily make money from your podcast through this app. So go right now, download the Anchor app or go to anchor.fm.com to get started. So now this next one is a little bit of a kind of like wild card one that I think would be really good. I haven't seen a lot of people post about it though. But something that was really big in NCAA 14, going back to that game. And it's just such a legendary game. I feel like it was the last NCAA game. It had so many features in it that people still love to this day. And the one that I think they should bring into Madden 22 and moving forward is to be able to realign divisions and conferences as well. I mean, as a Texans fan, I've always wanted to play the Cowboys twice a year or even yearly. Like be able to have the ability to change around the divisions and realign them the way that you want to. So going into this, I mean, like you can move the Cowboys out of the East and put them in the South. Put someone else in the South that's on the eastern border and put them in the East. Like there are certain things that just don't really match up anymore with how the league is structured. Like the AFC South consists of the Jaguars, the Texans, the Titans, and the Colts. Now, of those four teams, the Colts are kind of in the north. Like they're in Indianapolis. Like that is nowhere close to the South at all. I mean, I don't know why they were put into the South to start with. I mean, they could have put the Colts in the East and put the Dolphins in the South. What's wrong with having the two Florida teams in the South together? And the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, who are in the NFC South, they're still in the South. So why are the Dolphins in the East? You can maybe move the Colts into the East. I mean, the Colts are in an Eastern time zone too. So why not just put them in the East? Now the Dolphins come into the South since they're actually in the South part of the country. But so by doing this, they let us users have that input to be able to make the changes that we think we would want to make. It's a smaller one, but it's one that I think will lead to a lot of replay value as you can change around all your divisions and say like, oh, I want to see how the Chiefs would hold up if they're in the same division as the Seahawks and the 49ers out west, and you throw in the Cardinals or whatever in there. Or you're like, oh, I want to put all the San Francisco teams in the same like division. San Francisco, all the California teams in the same one. So you put, let's see, who's over there? The Chargers, Rams, 49ers. I think that's it right now, but the Raiders were over there. They're in Las Vegas now, whatever. So you put those four teams together. Or you go like, let's see, in the AFC North. I mean, that's a pretty historic one. The Browns, Ravens, Steelers, and Bengals, but say you want to break up the two bottom feeders there in the Bengals and the Browns. Like, hey, let's put one of those in the NFC North. Let's not break up the Packers and the Bears, because that's a legendary like rivalry right there. I mean, so is the Vikings and the Lions with those teams as well. But say you want to change it up. Say you want to have new like rivalries start and just have like a new kind of feel to the league. So move the Lions into the AFC North, put the Browns there, or put the Bengals there. Something like that to kind of just let you play around with the conferences and the alignment, and lets you just have fun with it. Like Madden isn't supposed to be all like, oh, super realistic. Because I mean, look, that they added X Factors last year, and this has been the funnest Madden in probably like a decade now. I mean, it's been my favorite football game since NCAA 14, and that was 7 years ago now. So, like, they did good with 20, adding X Factors, and they only built on that in 21. So why not let us go extra goofy and just have all this extra stuff in there? So let us realign divisions. Let me put the Cowboys and the Texans every single year. Let me move teams around. Let me have fun with the franchise mode. Like, it doesn't have to be, Texans play the Jaguars, Titans, Colts, six games a year. Here we go again. So hopefully they add in this ability to change out the teams, realign the conferences, and just have fun with it like that. So on to top 5 things. Number 4 right here. So I want more in-depth scouting. Scouting in Madden has been horrible for years. All you do is you go to a player, you spend scouting points on them. So it goes 15, 10, 5. So you spend 30 scouting points to fully scout a player, lets you know their top 3 stats and where they're projected at as a draft pick. So this is a very, very simplified scouting kind of a platform there. You just hit X, it tells you what they do, and that's pretty much it. And after the season, you get their combine scores, and it's like, oh, this guy is really strong. So, and he's on the D line, so he'll have strong pass rushing moves. But I mean, like, most players aren't really like, oh, like, let me get in depth like that. Let me see all their stats. Let me look at what they tested at the combine. But for those of us who play franchise religiously, we're always on franchise mode. This is something that needs to come to the game. So going back more than a decade right here to NFL head coach, 09 in particular, Tony Dungy was on the cover. This is one of my favorite 360 games of all time. So in this game, in NFL head coach, if I remember correctly, it is from 10 years ago. You had pro day scouting, you had combine scouting, you had individual school scouting, and you had individual player scouting. And so you would, throughout the season, you would be able to select schools from a list, be able to go scout those schools. And then from there, you would get kind of the prospect reports on most of the top prospects. And then you would be able to upgrade. So also an NFL coach, going back to the coordinators and the skill trees and all that, your head coach had scouting points as well, but you could upgrade them through the skill tree. And with those points, you can then be like, oh, hey, like, I want to be able to fully scout small schools. So how they split it up was large schools, medium schools, and small schools. Large schools were all your big ones like Texas, Michigan, Ohio State, Alabama, Clemson, those kind of schools. Middle schools are kind of those middle of the pack teams that are in the non-power conferences, but are still like Division I. So you would say like Rice, Houston, who else is in there? UCF out in Florida, or Rutgers or Syracuse, teams that have football teams that produce NFL quality players, but aren't an NFL powerhouse like a maker. And then you have small schools that are like Division II or they're FCS, smaller schools that produce those hidden gems sometimes. So by having that, you can kind of pick what you want to build your team around. Say you want to go all medium schools. Say you want to go, like, let me pick a team of guys from Rutgers and San Jose State and Kansas. I mean, Kansas is a big basketball school, but football-wise, I mean, they weren't really that huge. Rutgers, like, you could pick kind of what you wanted to scout by the team. And so what it would do, it would let you scout the team, and then it would give you the whole list of every player that was eligible for the draft that year. So say it was like a running back, a receiver, a couple DBs, and a kicker. So you would get a scouting report on all those guys. Not a full one, though. Not a full one, unless you had your upgraded skill tree, which going back to point one, we need in Madden now is a skill tree to let you do all this stuff in it. So you would be able to scout. We'll give you a quick kind of prospect glance, show you all their stats, all their stats, their attributes, their physicals, their mental abilities, and their intangibles, all that stuff. So we need that back in Madden. So along with that, so that is going on during the season. So that's scouting during the season. And then after the season, you have pro days leading up to the draft. You have the combine leading up to the draft. You have the Senior Bowl. You have all these different bowl games that you can go and scout. So bring that stuff back. Let us see the Senior Bowl. I mean, we don't have to play it, but at least have Senior Bowl stats. Let's see what the seniors are doing this year. And then going from there, personal workouts as well. You should be able to bring in personal prospects for personal workouts. It's a big thing in the NFL and the NBA and baseball. Like, these people can go to those players for a certain amount of time and interview them and see if they're fit for their team. So bring this back, and this is a more in-depth kind of scouting tool. Like, hey, like if I'm getting personal with this guy, I need to know his, not necessarily his overall rating, but what his like floor is or what his ceiling is. Like, hey, like this guy is a C+ player from a medium school, but he has A- potential. So it gives you a kind of floor. It's like, okay, this guy's A- potential, but he's kind of from a smaller school. So let me kind of hope that he falls somewhere. Hope that he falls in the 3rd or 4th round, because people aren't as high on him because he's coming from a smaller school. And now going from that, just give us more in-depth scouting. That is all we need in Madden. It's another big thing that we need. So going on to the final thing that we need in Madden of my top 5, better contract negotiation. Man, contract negotiations in Madden are horrible. Players only want to sign for what they're guaranteed at. Well, not guaranteed at, but like what they want or more. They will only ever ask for more money, more signing bonus, or more years or less years, depending on how old they are or how young they are. So they never go down on what they want. And in such a big team sport, where you see guys like Patrick Mahomes taking a team friendly deal, like that should factor into if guys want to take a pay cut, or if guys think, hey, this team is really, really bad, but I'm willing to come here if you pay me more. Like that's understandable. But also it's like, hey, I'm 33 years old. I can be a sub linebacker, so you don't have to pay me 12 million. You can pay me 8 or 6, something like that. Like, guys will not go down on their contract ask at all. You can try and finesse the system in free agency, but that's about it. You can offer them a smaller contract, but then they kind of just sit there with like 60 points on it as you wait for the free agency, for the 5-week free agency to end, and hope that you get him for a cheaper price than what he was asking for. So we need to be able to negotiate better contracts on Madden. Incorporate kind of like a FIFA-like system. So in FIFA, so the most recent FIFA 20, I've played it quite a bit in the career mode, and I mean, you can actually like negotiate contracts with most of the players. I mean, of course, there's bigger players who want more money, but like what I like to do in FIFA is play with a smaller club, build them up into the top league, and I'll buy players from the other big clubs and the other surrounding leagues. So I'll go as a like League 2 team in England, and Barcelona has a lot of project guys. So I'll go and they're making like $100,000, and it's like, hey, I can't offer you that, but here's $40,000 a week with a bigger signing bonus to kind of offset what you would make weekly. So like, give us that option to, to like, hey, Tom Brady, I know you want to win a title, so take some less money at the end of your career here, and let's sign some guys and let's make a run. Like, give us that ability. Let players have that like kind of sixth sense there. I mean, of course, it's in a video game, taught programming, but still, like, they should know that, hey, like this guy, he's set to retire in the next 2 to 3 years, or next year he's gonna retire. So he wants to try and chase a ring. So let that factor into how players like negotiate their contracts. And you should have a back and forth with them as well. It's like, oh, like if someone doesn't want to re-sign with you and they just completely cut you off. But what if you really, really want him, so you offer him more than his market value? Like, why does that not take an effect into the whole contract like negotiation thing? So ultimately, bring in kind of like the FIFA system, let you negotiate, let you talk with the players like, hey, like you're 32, but you're the missing piece on our team. You can be that third linebacker that we need, or if we run a 3-4, that fourth linebacker that we need, and you can make a difference on this team, and you can help be kind of like a like veteran role model, veteran leader on this team. You can really, really help us out. So take a little bit less money, but we feel we have a really good chance to get to an AFC Championship game or to get to like Super Bowl. So those things factor into real life decisions. So why not in Madden as well? So with that, these are my top 5 things that I want in Madden 22 and moving forward. So real quick, before we end this episode, going back with the number 5 thing is better contract negotiation. The number 4 thing is more in-depth scouting. The number 3 thing, the ability to realign divisions and conferences. The number 2 thing is off-season mini camps. And the number 1 thing is the coaching carousel. And now before we go, make sure everybody to go and like the podcast, leave a comment, send in a question, anything y'all want answered, anything y'all want to hear me talk about, send it in, send a DM, send a tweet reply, anything like that. Remember, again, you can find me at Freddyinferno on every platform, Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube. Make sure to hit the like button, subscribe, all that stuff on the YouTube channel. Follow me on Twitter. Send me questions, send me comments, anything like that. Tag me anything sports related, video game related.